My name's Mike Hayes, and this is my wife, Diana Hayes.
We've been married 22 years.
22 years.
I was just out of college, and I was working at a little petroleum company. The guy that I worked with wanted to introduce us to his roommates. So when I was shaking Mike's hand, I knew we were getting married. He doesn't believe me still to this day, but I was shaking his hand. I was like, this is the guy I'm going to marry. I knew it that very minute, and that first night when we met, I went home and prayed a rosary because I knew he was the man I was going to marry. Well, when Mike and I had been married about 7 years and we got pregnant with our third child, we went to our 17-week ultrasound and found out that our baby had a fatal birth defect. We met with the doctor after we found that out in the ultrasound room, and she told us that we could have an abortion or that we could treat the pregnancy like a normal pregnancy. And so we chose to carry on the pregnancy and deliver the baby, and then our baby would die. It was a really sad time, but a really beautiful time in our life. I mean, gosh, our families, our friends, our neighbors, so many people just lifted us up in prayer and supported us and just took really good care of us, because it was just a really sad time, you can imagine, and basically spending the rest of the pregnancy preparing for the baby to die and thinking about how are we going to, what are we going to tell the kids and how are we going to tell them. And when it was time for our little guy to be born, and we had been told he was a girl, Father Sean was in the room when I gave birth because we didn't know how long the baby would live and we wanted him baptized. So her baptized. So we had the baby, and Father Sean basically got her right from the nurse and baptized the baby, and then they took the baby over to this, the table where they check their APGAR scores and all that. And they unwrapped him. And so from kind of far away, I was like, that's not a girl. I can see that. And so he was born, and he lived 7 hours, and I started having some severe pain. So they gave me a shot, and that didn't take it away. And they tried a couple of things, and I was still in severe pain. And they were trying to find an ultrasound machine, and they couldn't get one to come fast enough. And at this time now, I can't breathe. They're having to give me oxygen. And so they wheeled me to the to the operating room, and they cut me open. Apparently my uterus had ruptured. And so the baby actually died while I was in surgery in Mike's arms. So Mike got to bathe him with a nurse and with my sister while I was in surgery, and then he died. And when I came out, he told me, and it was, my only concern was was he in your arms? Do you promise you were holding him? And he was. We had a beautiful funeral. Father Sean did a beautiful funeral here at St. Michael's. And when I was going back to the doctor for my follow-up, she said my uterus had ruptured in a really kind of bad way and that I should not have any more children, which I was devastated by. And so I dragged Mike for the next several months. We were going to this specialist and that specialist, trying to find a doctor that said, yeah, it'll be fine, let's have another baby. And they would all say, let's give it a try, sure. And then Mike would say, can you guarantee me that she's not going to rupture, that I wouldn't rupture? Because I guess the fear was that if I ruptured when I was not in the hospital, there was very little chance that the baby or I could be saved. So the doctors would always say, no, I can't really guarantee she's not going to rupture. And he'd be like, bye. So now we had to practice NFP. And so we practiced NFP very well for 8 years. I was getting older. My body was acting, doing what older bodies do in women. And it was Christmas Eve of 2007. And I was a little bit suspicious. My period was a little bit late. And so it was Christmas Eve, and we were going to go to my family's for our big Christmas Eve party. And I said, I'm just going to run to Walgreens and get a test. I know I'm not pregnant, but at least I can go and have wine, and I won't be worried tonight. And so I ran to Walgreens, and I came back, and right away that test said I was pregnant. I was in the bathroom, looking at the little stick, and I was by myself, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I could hear Mike in the other room. I guess he heard me, and he walks in, he goes, I guess we're having a baby. And I was like, so I was scared to death at first because they really scared us about my uterus. And I went through this couple of days of complete panic because I didn't want, I just didn't want my other babies to have to, go through life without a mama. And so then I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to worry. And I've never been able to do that. I worry about everything. But I just said, I'm just going to let it go. I'm just going to let it go. And I'm having a baby. And now we have that little wild monkey you met. And it's been, an adventure and a great joy, actually. Natural family planning works. We did it very faithfully, extremely faithfully for many years, and it works. I'm not going to say it didn't work when we got pregnant with Michael, because we really just were less faithful to it. We were less faithful to NFP, and wow, what a great gift we got. Because he is crazy, but I cannot imagine our life without him. He just brought so much light to our world, and now that our other kids are so big, and we just still have that complete joy running around our house. So yes, NFP does work.
Making that conscious effort to say, this is the life that we want to live and we want to pass on to our kids, and if that gets us closer and easier to make sure we get to heaven to see Stephen again, then all the better. So yeah, it really kind of brings us together, and our kids are very strong Catholics. From the time that our kids were small, we have made prayer a very central part of our family. Even before they could understand the words, we said prayers with them every night. We always say prayers over meals. We take them to church. We really have just made it a part of our everyday life. We need to thank God for the things that we have, to ask God for the things that we need, but just make it part of a conversation with God.